it's important to practice on your own and everything, like have your technique down. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's totally equally as important, to really try to get together with other people and learn from one another.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, and I help people who want to learn to play bass but haven't gotten very far with it yet, or at least not far enough. We've got a great interview this week. Marco Panascia, New York pit player, jazz player, everything player. We're going to really geek out on some very niche bass stuff. You're going to love it. It's a great interview. But first, if you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, men and women of all ages. And you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. Come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. You're never too old to groove, so let's play bass. Marco Panascia is an Italian-born upright and electric bassist who's been in New York City since 2002. He's currently a member of Leah Delaria's working band, and he's performed or recorded on quite an impressive list of jazz and pop luminaries artists, including Herbie Hancock, Lee Konitz, Randy Brecker, Roy Hargrove, Mike Stern, Postmodern Jukebox, Natalie Cole, Patti LaBelle, and Italian operatic pop trio Il Volo. Having subbed regularly for over a dozen successful Broadway productions, Marco is a first-call bassist in the New York City musical theater scene and has performed in classic shows like Wicked, Disney's The Lion King, and Frozen, and the groundbreaking off-Broadway show Sleep No More for 5 years. Marco earned a Bachelor of Music degree from Berklee College of Music before earning his Master of Music degree from Manhattan School of Music. He's now also an adjunct faculty member at the New School of Jazz and Contemporary Music in Manhattan. Here's my interview with Marco. Hi, Marco.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. It's always so good to see you. We bump into each other at NAMM, I think. Well, this year for sure we did. And I think,
Right.
yeah, other places too. You know what? I remember seeing you at the convention for the International Society of Bassists in Colorado,
In Fort Collins, yep.
Fort Collins. That was
Yeah,
2015, I think. And we sat in, and Buster Williams was there, and
yeah, yeah.
Bill Palumbi was there, and Miroslav was there. Miroslav.
Yeah. That was we were all definitely starstruck.
Yeah.
I remember taking my picture with Gary Carr and a few other legends. It was definitely a memorable one.
Gary was at that one?
Yeah. He no, actually no, maybe that was Ithaca. Yeah,
That
that was
was
Ithaca.
because I had the distinction and the honor of interviewing Gary Carr and Francois Rabath on the same day.
Exactly. That was in Ithaca, like 2017 or something. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
that's
And
right.
then, this is your second time on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. We did an interview that was published in February of 2021.
Wow. In
And
our past lifetime.
yeah, we were going, oh, pandemic, oh, the pandemic, oh, the pandemic, like we all were.
That's right. That's right.
And you
Yeah.
kept saying, "Oh, I can't wait till the pandemic is over and we get back to normal, and I can start doing what I do."
hmm
So let's segue into there. What do you do? What have you been doing? What's it's been? Well, I've seen you a few times, but it's been 5 years since the last no 4 years since the last interview. So
That's right. That's right.
what you been up to? What's keeping you busy these days?
Well, I a few years ago, I kind of set a goal for myself because what I was doing, for many, many years, I was making a living 100% as a straight ahead jazz upright bass player, right? But as I mentioned in my previous interview, I would get frustrated about the fact that sometimes, a month or two would go by, without me being able to bring an electric bass to a gig. And that was a, source of major frustration for me because I really love both instruments equally. So I kind of set a goal for myself, that I wanted to really try to diversify my career and put my musical versatility to use. And after few years of working on that, I'm glad to say that it's finally happening. So basically, my goal was to find a healthy balance between, freelance work, which means like studio recordings and live shows and teaching, and then playing on Broadway, and then also keeping my jazz career going and going on the road from time to time. So I had this main four goals, to try and achieve, make them work all at the same time. And about like maybe 3 weeks ago, there was a week in which all four things happened.
Oh,
Because I played a nice show with a great young pianist named Arco Sandoval. She's originally from Tucson, Arizona, but she's been living in New York for over a decade. So we played a nice jazz show with her original material at the Zinc Bar here in New York. Then then I played a matinee at Wicked the next day, and then I went out on the road with Leah Delaria because we had a show in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. So it was nice to kind of think about it, and I'm like, wow, so all these things are actually happening, like one day after the other. So for me, it was like kind of realization that something that I've been working on career-wise, was happening, the way that I wanted it to. And so I don't know. It was a nice feeling. I mean, I felt that I was where I really wanted to be, with my career in terms of like not putting my eggs in just one basket, but trying to diversify, my professional activities. So yeah, so
so does that mean it's time to set some new goals?
yeah, I mean, possibly. For now, I'm really happy, just like getting things going on this multiple avenues, and let's see where life takes me next.
You made me think of something that when I was down in Florida and I was doing a ton on the upright and I was doing a ton on the electric.
Yeah, yeah.
Shows and Broadway and theater and Latin and club dates and everything. And I thought, if I really want to be well-rounded, I actually thought of taking up the tuba.
I know. I mean, that's something that I've been wanting to do forever, but it's not going to happen in this lifetime. But I've signed up for the next one.
Well, I was so busy with upright and electric. When you add up all the shows I was doing, it averaged to like between 400 and 500 shows a year, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
more than
yeah.
one a day.
That's
It's eight
awesome. That's
shows a
awesome.
week at the theater, and then four shows at the Copacabana, and then the oddball things, the club dates and stuff. But I thought, yeah, that would cover all the bases, so to speak.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Subbing on, I mean, doubling on tuba would be useful, for example, for subbing on Chicago, because the show has tuba and upright bass. And
Really?
there are very
Yeah, huh?
few, yeah, there are very few musicians who manage to do both well. I'm thinking of my friends, Max Murray from Maryland, whom you probably know, and Adam Hammer. He's another great bass player who does tuba, upright, electric, I mean, trombone, you name it. I mean, he basically plays all the instruments and he gets all the shows.
Wow. You mentioned I'm sorry, Leah Delaria.
Yeah, yeah.
How's that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that is a new name that's new to you since 2021. You mentioned, I think you said Fort Lauderdale, which also brought back some happy memories for me. But tell me a little bit more about that gig, because that seems to be one of the main thrusts of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I mean, Lee and I met back in 2008. We played a few shows together then, but we kind of lost touch. And then we reconnected again maybe around 2022. And we just hit it off big time. And so basically now I'm part of her band, both here in for New York gigs and for out of town gigs. We played in Fort Lauderdale, then we did a show in San Francisco back in January, and I'm sure that there's going to be more road dates in the works. But the fun thing about being here in New York is that we do a steady show at 54 Below, which is a nice venue in the basement of Studio 54, which
Oh,
is the infamous disco where Bianca Jagger showed up on her white horse and and other things that we will not mention here, that went on in that room. But basically, after Studio 54 closed, they basically made a theater out of it. It's a Broadway theater, and in the basement of that same building, there's this club, 54 Below, which books a lot of like cabaret acts, very high profile people. And we basically the second Sunday of every month we do this brunch show at 54 Below with Leah and the trio, and we always have a different guest. There's always a different theme. Like we just did our Easter show, Leaster show, Leah and Easter, right? And of course, there's the Christmas show, and every major like holiday or event, that gets its dedicated show. So all the songs that we do are kind of touching upon that subject that the show is based on, and it's a lot of fun. We get to do different songs every time, and yeah, I mean, I really love working with her. She's great.
upright gig, upright bass.
Yeah, yeah, it's on opera. I mean, basically, we're a jazz trio, but the thing is that the repertoire is really varied. This past Sunday, it was our Easter slash Passover show, and we ended up doing "Like a Prayer" by Madonna, and it was so much fun playing it on upright because basically, I don't know if you remember the song. It's sort of like an '80s anthem. There's these like soft parts with strings that alternate, with like a disco beat. Uh, and so I had to, alternate between arco and pits, throughout the whole song. And because the switch was so sudden for the pits part, I couldn't put the bow in my quiver because there was not enough time to get it. So I had to like play pits, with the bow in my hand and then go back and forth. And but then towards the song there was no more arco, so I was able to finally put the bow in the quiver and rock out, with no impediments. Yeah,
Talking
there
about
was
things that most people wouldn't think about, except people that watch for ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. It's definitely, kind of a nerdy subject, that only it's for the initiated few.
Hey, have you done a lot of you did do a lot of orchestral work, right? With the
Yeah, I
bow.
mean, back home, when I was still living in Italy before I came to the US, I had classical training, so I was playing with string orchestra, string orchestras locally, and that was I had a great classical teacher. His name was Nello Nicotra, and we're still in touch. He was a student of Gary Cars and Francesco Petracchi, like the best bass players in the world. I studied with them, so he gave me a lot of really valuable information. And without those 5 years of lessons with him, I would not have been able to do the Broadway thing, because the bowing stuff I basically learned it all, during my tenure, with this great teacher. So I'm really thankful for those years of classical training and playing in orchestras because they've been a lifesaver. Now
Well, the
that
reason I asked is because playing pits while holding the bow should
yeah.
not be a new or a foreign thing to you.
No, absolutely. It's just that as you know, I mean, it's when you're trying to rock out on like a funk tune, I mean, you definitely want to have like the freedom of using both fingers, But if you're holding the bow with one hand, I mean, you're only going to be able to like play pluck with one finger, which of course is a bit of an impediment as opposed to like being able to alternate.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha. Is
yeah.
it a French bow or a German bow?
Well, French, but I'm envious of all the German players because I mean, I always like I see them playing. I mean, basically, they basically caress the strings, and they get like 10 times the volume that I get, with my French bow. In terms of like attack, I mean, it can't be beat. But so I was thinking of switching. I've been practicing a little bit, but there are things that I have a hard time with, like when for those pitch to arco sections. The advantage of the French bow is that you can kind of keep it upright like this. And I think it's a little easier to switch back and forth. But with the French, it has to like lay downwards.
Yeah.
So I guess there's more of a risk of like hitting the body, with a bow. So
Okay. You mean the German is more of
yeah,
a
the German, yeah, like you have to, yeah, it has to go this way instead of like up. So that alone, kind of terrifies me, for those bits to arco to bits
you ever
stuff.
play Tchaikovsky Symphony Number 4?
No, I haven't.
Okay. The third movement is
Hmm.
all pits.
Oh, okay.
Everybody made a big deal. The violins, everybody they put their bows down and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, like that's
yeah.
where the jazz thing was born, I guess. Yeah,
Speaking of things that only bass players think of,
yeah.
something else that got my attention a few minutes ago. You
Hmm.
lived in New York, you went to Fort Lauderdale, you went to San Francisco. Were you traveling with your own bass?
No, I mean, unfortunately, I have to do the base du jour thing, and
Okay.
I've lucked out so far, but sometimes, when I really want to have like if I have a tour, I will probably bring my alter ego electric upright, which sounds really, really good. But a lot of times, they try to convince me, oh, don't worry, we're gonna get you a great upright, and which has happened like I would say 90% of the times, but I do have my horror stories, of course.
Yeah, I do too. Do you remember? You must be familiar with Rufus Reed's book, The Evolving Bassist.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he wrote that what, like 45 years ago at least. And he says, "Oh no, when you get on an airplane, just take your bass and turn it upside down, and it goes on the
I
seat."
know, I know. I
Planes
love
don't
it.
accommodate that anymore.
I
I
love
went to, my first ISB convention was in New York City in 1990, and I took my upright with me, and I believe it had to end up flying in first class.
Wow.
And I
That's
sat
great.
back and coached, but
Yeah, yeah.
I got two meals. I remember because I had to buy another ticket for, so I got.
Exactly, exactly. No, 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 totally, totally. I mean, I do remember the exact page that you're referring to on Rufus's book, where he's wearing that awesome checkered suit,
Yep.
and that the whole vibe is like, oh man, we miss those days, But unfortunately, they're long gone. Yeah, yeah,
But it was what I did a tour of Japan and Korea, and they sent me a big trunk. And when I toured with Into the Woods, also
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
my house, so that then there's somebody else that takes care of all that stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, I want to tell you briefly about my number one base du jour story was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay.
Uh, there was this bass, that basically was like a bass player's nightmare because, like, I mean, you know the deal. We like to have kind of a high-ish E string so we can have a little more bottom end and clearance, and progressively going to like a lower G so you can solo in thumb position with more facility. I mean, that's kind of the way I like it.
I
But
never, I never thought of that. That's actually a good idea.
yeah,
I
it's kind of I call it a sloping approach, because I like to have a little more clearance in the low register so that the string can vibrate more, because
Sorry to interrupt, but just on a tangent, do you apply that concept to electric bass ever too?
no, no, not really.
Oh,
It's definitely an upright thing.
okay.
And and so basically, I mean, this bass was like the E string was about 2 millimeters off the fingerboard. So you would like basically caress it and it would just rattle, automatically, even if you're just like barely touching the string. And then the G string was maybe like 12 millimeters off the fingerboard, which basically made thumb position and everything else, impossible. So I tried it for like a couple of minutes, and I luckily had an electric bass with me on the trip because it was part of a tour. And I was like, I'm not playing this thing tonight, So I played the gig on electric, and that was the end of it.
Did you ever study out of the belay book?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Being from Italy,
Yeah.
that my schooling was all based on the ballet. I mean, I had the Simandl as well, but and as you know, in Italy we have our 1-3-4 technique. Basically, instead of playing 1-2-4 as the rest of the world does, we do this. We have an elastic band put on, for the first like couple of years of your studies. And so these two fingers are basically still connected. And so when people look at it, they're like, what was that? You're playing with the third finger. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's the way that I was brought up, and I still do it.
I never knew that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, if you go back to the ballet, you'll notice that the fingerings are 1 3 4, not 1 2 4.
Don't remember, but what I do remember about Billy, just mentioning his name
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
my
yeah.
thumb hurt.
Yeah, 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 right, right. So yeah, basically, yeah, a lot of people, they give me a hard time about it. Carlos Enriquez is one of them, he always teases me about it, but it's all good.
Do you know Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats?
Well, not personally, but I know of him. Yeah,
Okay, because I've interviewed him once or twice. I've met him at like the London Bass Guitar Show or Bass,
yeah, yeah,
both, I think. And
yeah.
I think he started on cello. So he
Yeah,
does a lot with his third finger, if
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
recall. I never knew. That's like a standard traditional Italian
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's how we do it in Italy. People still play 1 3 4. It's the way that it's done.
Doesn't matter
If
if
we're the
you're
only ones.
in the half position or up higher at third, fourth position.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, of course, when it's really hot, close to the octave, I mean, it's 1 2 3, like you would as well. But there's that, and then my teacher would always encourage me actually to play 1 2 3 4, like in the middle of the neck, and I still do it. So
Great. If you can
yeah,
play
yeah,
the
yeah,
spoon, that's really great.
definitely, definitely. Like that I call it open fingering. So the way that I have a very unique way of playing, which was basically like my electric bass technique and upright bass technique that kind of influenced each other. And I
Yeah.
found my own way of doing things. So it's really hard to explain it to someone else, because it came together, through decades of just doing it.
You also now you're reminding me of Brian Bromberg and Steve Bailey.
Hmm.
Both of them on the electric bass.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
get up
yeah,
to like the 12th fret. They go into thumb position on the
yeah,
electric
yeah,
bass.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, Brian said, "Well, I don't have time to learn a whole new technique. This is the way I learned." So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even though like doing that position on the electric, I mean, it's definitely not as comfortable as on the upright, but if that works for them, so be it.
I'm trying to. You probably in boy, this is really geeking out. But when you go into thumb position,
Yeah, yeah.
I tend to use my third finger very rarely, if at
Mhm.
all. I guess it depends. I'd have to play, but I normally go with like thumb one, two, thumb one, two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I do use my third finger a lot.
I guess if I'm doing an arpeggio across the strings, I might use the third finger. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I definitely want to be able to use all four fingers, because like the way I see it is that up high, like the way I try to see it is like basically one octave higher than like, first half position when you're like starting
yeah,
out there.
that
So
makes sense on a cognitive level. But
yeah, well, I mean that's basically I try to think about target areas. Like I try to basically, just have one position as a target area and try to get as much melodic material as I can, just like staying in one position. Uh, so thumb 1 2 3, thumb 1 2 3. That's like 4 by 4. Four notes for string. That's 16 notes, and you can get a whole lot out of it. So I mean, I'll just show you. Since we're talking about it. Yep. You can get a kind of a better idea of what I'm talking about. So like I don't know, rhythm changes.
uh, yeah, I'm sorry. It looks great, but the mic went
The
out.
same
I think
quote.
I don't know if it's a Zoom thing or what. It
Yeah, probably
looked
not
very
coming.
impressive, but I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I mean, so the concept is that I try to basically go for a target position that I'm gonna try to stick to and get as much melodic material out of it as I can. So the third finger is definitely important, because like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Probably use the third finger more than I realize. I don't know. I'll have to get out my acoustic. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let's talk about the plucking hand there. Do you ever use more than just two fingers? Do you do like a Billy Sheehan, like a
No, not. I mean, on the upright, no, no, no. Like like Niels Pedersen. No, no. I stick with two fingers, and I mean, most of the time, if I want to have a consistent sound, I'll actually stick with just my index finger. Sort of like, James Jamerson. I'm pretty sure that he took that thing from the upright and brought it to the Fender P bass,
That makes a lot of
because he
sense.
was playing just, with the hook and doing the most amazing thing you've ever heard, with one finger. So, and I mean, I get it. I understand why he did it, because I think he was going for like consistency, and there's no way you can have great consistency if you stick with one finger, because I mean, whether you like it or not, the index and the middle finger do sound a little different. So I don't know. I think it made sense, for him, to do that, so I totally understand where
Other
it's
times
coming
for a
from.
walking line, I'll just use the
Yeah,
index.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I alternate mostly for like, soloing. Then when it's like faster stuff, then it definitely comes in handy, the ability to
Really.
alternate. Yeah, yeah.
Wonder if anybody does something like instead of double thumbing, if they do double on the finger, down and up, down and up, down and up.
No, I mean, I don't think you can really do it, because you wouldn't get a good sound. I mean, the upright is really about like sheer physicality, like you really have to work for every note, so I don't think you can get the same intensity, when
Uh,
you like,
I
yeah.
guess not. This is stuff I think about, or it just popped into my head. Uh,
So yeah.
so Niels Patterson, you mentioned he did a three finger.
Hmm.
That how he did. I saw him
Absolutely. Yeah.
months after I started playing the upright bass,
Yeah.
1979. I
Yeah.
saw him in a jazz club in Dearborn, Michigan, with
Hmm.
Oscar Peterson and Joe Pass, the three.
Wow.
I still have not recovered.
Yeah, I know, I know. Yeah, it was a force of nature. I was lucky enough to do a master class with him when I was a student at Bravinia, the music festival in Chicago, and so I had the chance to play "Bye Bye Blackbird" as a duet with him. Can you imagine?
Is
I
there a
wish.
video of that?
No, I wish we had smartphones. I mean, we're talking like 2001. Like back then, there were no smartphones or anything. So, but it's definitely a memory that I'll always cherish.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
you mentioned, did you mention an electric upright before? I thought you said something. What do you have? What kind of electric upright do you have?
Yeah, it's called Alter Ego. They're basically handmade in Rome, in Italy. And I don't have it here because it's actually in Boston, because I go there often and I have a bunch of gigs there. So I just left it there. But I'm about to bring it back to New York, because I know that I'm going to need it on certain gigs here where I can't be bothered, bringing an upright and an amp, so that will make it a little easier. But yeah, I mean, it has a really lovely sound. It's really accurate. I mean, it has like the almost like a mic-like attack, so that's what makes it genuine, because the problem that I have with most electric uprights is that they tend to sound like, glorified Fender Jazz fretless, and like all that moi and mid range, but that's a different vibe than like an acoustic upright. So the Alter Ego gets closer to that. I mean, more of that mic-like kind of really trebly attack, as opposed to like, this like mid-rangey mess, Yeah.
The NS designs are really popular too. Have you ever played?
Yeah, I checked them out. I remember checking out an early model, and then one that came 20 years later, and I definitely noticed an improvement in terms of like the quality of the sound. Yeah, yeah.
What about on your upright? What kind of pickup do you put on there?
Yeah, well, I've been using the full circle for more than 20 years. It's my favorite, and actually I met the Chris DeMaria, the
Yeah, Fishman.
A&R, yeah, yeah, A&R guy from Fishman. And so, if he's watching this, like I'm about to get in touch with him, to kind of make it more official, because I think I'm responsible for turning more than 100 bass players over the years, to the full circle. So, if were it only for that, and I'm really, really happy about it. And then, like strings wise, I'm affiliated with the Dario. I've been using their Helicore hybrids, light gauge for a long time. Sometimes I've used the Zyx and Kaplans, but I tend to stick, with the Helicores, because They give me like kind of the best of both worlds, for pits and arco. And sometimes, if I need that gut string vibe, I have an old golden spiral, that Dario used to make like between the late 90s and the early 2000s. And the rumor has it that Charlie Hayden basically bought all the remaining stock, so they disappeared because he used to use them, the Ds and the Gs. And lately, I've been checking out these replicas of the Red Arrays, which were used by Ray Brown and a lot of great jazz bass players, plain gut colored, with a red dye, made by Aquila Strings in Italy, and they're really phenomenal. So yeah, so basically this is what I do. For most of the time, I had to have metal strings, because they give me more versatility in terms of like going back and forth between pits and arco. But when I want that gut string vibe, for DNG, I have to have gut, and they don't sound really good with the bow, but when it comes to pits, I mean, like you can't compare like the earthiness, the vibe that they have.
How long has Charlie Hayden been gone? Because I interviewed him. I have an interview with Charlie Hayden on
Yeah,
for
right. Cool. I think it's been about maybe 10 years, I would say. Yeah, it's been a while.
but so happy to have that. Um, you've got a bunch of electrics along.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to go through every one of
The family jewels.
them. But I would imagine there's, I've interviewed bass players. Oh, I have 200 basses. I have 150 basses, and I said, yeah, that's great. I bet
Yeah,
oh, when you go to play the bass, you tend to gravitate toward the same one or two, maybe
yeah,
three.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, pretty much. But you don't have that many on display
Well,
anyway.
that's only a fourth of the collection, because I have about, I think, 28 or 29 right now, but they're in different parts of the apartment. Those are like the main ones that I use, most of the times. So, yeah, it's basically, I'm loyal to three brands for well, I've been using, Mike Law basis since 2000. Last night I started watching your interview with Spencer, which was very moving. And as a matter of fact, we've been in touch very frequently lately because he's making me a new custom bass, and I went a little crazy with the custom options. So, so I'm sorry, Spencer. I know that I'm a problem customer. I apologize. But I was like, okay, if we're going custom, I mean, gonna go custom all the way. And so it's gonna be, I couldn't make up my mind between a JJ and a PJ. So I was like, let's have all three. So it's like basically a JJ with a P in the middle. And the P is gonna be reversed. Because I think it makes more sense to me. Like I believe reading that someone asked Leo Fender at some point, why didn't you have the P like, reversed? Because it makes more sense. Because if you have that part, closer to the bridge, the upper part, you're gonna have tighter E and A. And then if you have the G part closer to the fingerboard, it's gonna sound better when slapping, for example, because it's gonna be a little mellower, but it's closer to the fingerboard. And he said, yeah, I should have done it the other way, but then it was too late, and I couldn't change it. That's
Well,
a
he would have done it eventually. He was the consummate tinkerer.
Yeah, 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 exactly. No, but basically, I mean, I don't know if it's an urban legend, but they asked him, because on a theoretical point, I mean, it really makes more sense to have the upper part like closer to the bridge because you want a tighter E and A, right? And a mellower D and G, but he did the other way around, and he got stuck with it.
Which is the guitar? I think it's the Strat, where two of them are parallel, and then the one that's closest to the bridge is on
Yeah,
an angle.
exactly. The Strat. Yeah, yeah.
Which how is that angled? Is it closer to which part's closer to the bridge and which part's closer to the finger?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of it, like not being a guitar player and all.
Easy to
But
find.
yeah, I think the telly is the same way. But for that, I think for a guitar it's probably different, because like maybe you want more twanginess for the high strings,
Yeah.
like on a telly. I mean, especially the telly, it being like a meat and potatoes, like Americana, country type of guitar, So it makes more sense, that you would want more clear clarity out of the high strings, So I think the pickup is angled towards the high strings, you know. But for bass, I don't know. I see it differently. I think it's probably better to have a tighter sound for the low strings, you know, so having it closer to the bridge, and a little mellower for the high strings. But
How did you just did you say you put that in the middle between the two J pickups?
yeah. So, you
Sure,
know,
there was some thought that went into that too.
oh, totally. Yeah. So basically, it's gonna have three individual on and off switches, and then at first I thought I would have it passive, but then I was like, okay, I need the versatility of active, you know. So it's gonna have master volume, then stacked bass and treble, just a two-band Bartolini EQ, active EQ, and then a passive tone.
Artellini, you said?
Yeah, for the electronics. So basically, I can still use it as a passive bass, you know, with the on-off pull on pull off switch on the passive tone control. But if I want to go active, then I have that option too. And then I'm also gonna have a kill switch because sometimes on Broadway, I mean, as you're aware from your theater work, you need to be able to mute just like that, you know. And the standard jazz bass thing with two volumes, like I always dread it, you know, because muting two volume knobs on the fly is definitely more challenging than muting just one.
Don't you use a volume pedal in the pit?
No, I don't. And so most of the times I just mute either with a tuner, you know, the Boss tuner, you know, that like basically mutes it. But I love the fact that you know, being able to have a kill switch right on the instrument.
Yeah.
And indeed, you know, that's what I have. I'll show you. This one is another, you know, bass that I use all the time. It's made by this great Korean luthier named John Jae Young Jung. It's a Benevolo. It's basically a an acoustic electric bass that really sounds like an opera. It has like an opera style kind of bridge, and you know, just very simple volume, tone, and here you have a kill switch. So it's really handy. You know, instead of having to mess with the volume, I have to remember if it was like 8.5, 9 or something. This way I can just like basically kill it and put it back on without having to remember how it's set.
Well, that's great. That makes sense for you. I couldn't imagine playing a Broadway show in a pit orchestra without a volume pedal.
Yeah, I hear it. Well, I did buy one recently, but I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But I definitely will.
Well, here's a question for you, not to put Spencer on the spot, but when do you expect to have that new Mike Lull bass in your hands?
Yeah, I think it's going to be ready around June, hopefully. And I was thinking of going to pick it up in person because I have a lot of miles that I want to use and get rid of. So I might just like hop on a plane and just go pick it up in person because why not?
June-ish, right? June.
Yeah. I mean, but I think they're pretty good because I mean,
Seattle or someplace up there? Washington.
yeah. It's right outside Seattle, Bellevue, Washington. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Hey, I want to ask you something that we touched on in your first interview, but I want to get a little more specific. I
Mhm.
asked you about advice that you had for somebody who wants to learn bass, but I'd like to qualify that a little bit. Because for
Yeah.
bass players only is really a bass instruction site.
Yeah. Hmm.
I've got people from all 50 states. And last time anybody counted, I think 50, 60, 70 countries maybe now worldwide. And they're
Hmm.
coming to for bass players only every day to learn how to play bass.
That's awesome. That's a great community. Mhm.
Oh, great people.
Yeah.
And the people that I'm attracting are not the ones I expected to attract.
Hmm.
Pretty much everybody is over 40, but
Yeah.
most
Yeah. Yeah.
people are older than over 40.
Yeah.
I've got
No,
students, men and women, in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got students in their 80s.
totally.
And they're not trying to make a career out of playing bass. They want to play some classic rock riffs with their buddies,
Yes.
some blues
Hmm.
shuffles, or a lot of them are into jazz and walking bass, and some are into funk R&B.
Yeah.
Because I always think about, when I was 17, and my goals were all wrong because I was
Hmm.
Stanley Clark and
Yeah.
Jeff Berlin, and
I
that's
hear you.
what I was into. But I wasn't thinking about what does it mean to play the bass? And I need to lock in with the drummer. I need to set the foundation for the band. I need to make the music feel good. I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So, when you're in your 50s, 60s and up, you have a more mature approach to what you're doing, hopefully.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And a lot of times when we get to that age, well, I've got a lot of people with arthritis and maybe
Yeah, yeah.
tendonitis, or ache.
I
I'm
know, I
not
know.
trying to paint a dire picture here, but I'm just trying to give you
No,
some.
I mean, it's what it is. Yeah.
So that's why I tell you, because this is who we're talking about here. So
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that in mind, now I want to ask you what advice you can impart to those people. What should they be thinking about? What should their goals be? What
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I'm proud to say that I'm very familiar with that demographics because every summer up in Rochester, New York, I teach at a jazz camp called Tritone Jazz Fantasy Camps. I don't know if you heard about it. Uh,
okay, actually.
it's led by great fellow bass player Bob DeRosa, and I've been teaching there for the past 8 years, I would say. And over there, I mean, basically, it's I would say 90% of the students they're in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Basically, they all had successful careers as lawyers, doctors, you name it. And then when they retired or when they were close to retiring, they were like, "Hey, I want to pick up my horn again," which is something I did in school or like back in my younger days before I went full time into my lawyer career, doctor career. And so basically I teach them every summer, and I just love the experience, because I mean, of course, it's different than like teaching I don't know, college students, who are about to graduate, with a jazz degree or things like that. And so it's a lot of fun. I mean, basically, what I suggest that they do is to try to listen to as many recordings as possible, and also trying to go to as many live shows as possible because I mean, for two reasons. Because there's no substitute, when it comes to learning, than like absorbing it from the source, which means like listening to the masters, either on recordings, or if they're lucky enough to be able to go see them live, then definitely do that by any means. And going to see artists live also helps their livelihood, so we're basically one big family that's supporting one another. So those are the two things that I recommend. The technique, everything else, can be taken care of like on, I guess, on their own, when they're practicing. But the one thing I recommend is to really try their best, to make music with fellow humans. So instead of just like practicing in their basement, in their music room, I highly recommend, that they try to join a band, meeting up with like-minded musicians and trying to make music together because music to me is like I see it as a language, and the best way to learn a language is to practice it with other people. So that's something I really recommend. Like it's important to practice on your own and everything. Like have your technique down, but at the same time, I mean, I think it's totally equally as important, to really try to get together with other people and learn from one another. And yeah.
I love that. I just want to share with you
Mm.
that some people don't want that. They don't care about that as much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe they don't mind it, but I've
Mhm.
come across a lot of people. It surprised me a bit at first,
Yeah, yeah,
but they are totally content to sit in their room, close the door, and
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
be all by themselves and just figure it out and shed and
Oh,
practice.
definitely, definitely. I mean, but that's an important part of the process. It's just maybe, I don't know, they might be self-conscious about like, they think that if they play with fellow musicians, they will be judged, for their abilities or things like that. But it's really, it doesn't have to be that way. So I think that if they can strike a nice balance of like spending time in their music room and then maybe on the weekends, trying to get together with other musicians or going to jam sessions, I think that both parts are, kind of different sides of the same coin. I would say.
Another benefit to what you're saying is, and you've probably experienced this too in your younger days. You
Mhm.
practice and you get it down when you're in your bedroom and you got it down. And then when you get together at rehearsal or for a show or something, why does all that stuff go out the window?
I know, I know. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, there's this bass player in Italy. He does like a kind of humorous post and something, and he has like his own merch, and he has a T-shirt where he reads. I mean, I had to try to translate from Italian, but it's like I was able to do it at home, but I can't do it here on the gig. Like it's like I assure you that at home it was perfect, but it's just not coming out here. So, but it's all good. I mean, it's again, it's part of the process. Of course, when we're practicing on our own, there's a degree of confidence, that sometimes, playing with other musicians can be intimidating in a way, but it really helps our musicianship. I mean, beyond just like playing good bass. Yeah.
Sometimes the reverse is true
Oh,
too.
you think so? Yeah. Yeah.
James Jamerson, if you're playing along with a Motown record, you
Yeah.
think you're the one that's making it feel good. Take the record off and let's hear what you sound like by yourself. It's a different story.
Yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
there's
I
two
hear.
sides to every coin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's of course it's all a matter of like opinions. We all the world is nice because we all see things differently. So I guess that every
And sounds
yeah,
great. I sound great.
yeah, every approach is valid. I mean, as long as you know uh, anyone like believes in the approach that they're going for, then so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Italian. I have a favorite word in Italian.
Which one is it?
Sangiovese.
All right. Because I'm good vino. It's funny because like I've never gotten into wine, but my family, we own a vineyard in the southern part of Sicily, and so we basically make our own wine, and it's like of the Nero d'Avola. I don't know if you're familiar with that denomination. It's basically a really, I mean, I can't remember the proof, but I think it's maybe about 20% or something, so that's
Pretty strong for a wine.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, you
About
drink it
11
and
or
then you're
12.
basically gone like 20 minutes later. Yeah, 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 yeah.
My wife and I were in Italy in 2016. You know Alberto Rigoni?
Yeah, not personally, but I'm in touch with him. Yeah.
He came out to our hotel and we took a walk and I interviewed him and there's gondolas going by in the back. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we were in Rome one time, and I think it was like a Sunday afternoon, and there was a marching. My wife and I were up on, outside on some porch or ledge or something at a building, and we looked down, and there was some kind of festival, I guess, or something, and there's a
Yeah, yeah.
marching band going by. Oh, I wonder what these Italian kids are into. They
Mhm.
were playing Watermelon Man by Herbie.
Oh, there you go. How universal.
Well,
Yeah.
I was expecting.
That's
Well, it's so great to hear what you've been up to. What about the future? What else that you may not have mentioned that is in store? What do you have coming up? Or is there something else that you maybe always wanted to do and just haven't gotten around to yet?
Yeah, well, for now I'm really comfortable with the whole Broadway journey that I've undertaken. The last time we chatted in 2011, I'd only subbed I think on 3 or 4 shows, but
2021.
yeah, 2021 exactly. Right. It's all a blur with the pandemic thing. But now 4 years later, I have maybe 15 shows under my belt, which means that I've been kind of trying to do this as full time as I can. And so now I'm on call for 3 shows, The Lion King, Wicked, and maybe Happy Ending. And there used to be a fourth one called A Wonderful World, which was basically about the life of Louis Armstrong, which unfortunately closed last month. So, there was definitely a lot of juggling involved, between those 4 shows. Now it's a little lighter, because, 3 is easier to manage than 4. But I'm really enjoying this journey. I really think that Broadway has made me a better musician because it's given me more experience in things that I was not really that experienced in, like, following a conductor and, make sure my reading is together, make sure my doubling is together. On Wicked, there are 3 basses. There's upright bass, fretted bass, and fretless bass. And And sometimes the choreography is like, the switches are so
Three different people?
no, no, no.
Oh,
The bass
double.
player does all three. Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
exactly. So yeah, so it's definitely made me grow. And of course, I mean, there are so many, the opportunity to meet great like-minded musicians, who are super professional. They read their butts off, and so I'm really, really like invested in this journey, and I really want to keep at it. Then I'm looking forward to teaching a tritone again in June, and it's coming up in 2 months. And then at the end of July, I'm going to start a 3-week run at the Lion King because the chair, the great Tom Barney, generally takes summers off. So the subs get to do 3, 4 weeks each, and it's great. I mean, it's like as a sub, it's great to have the opportunity to kind of settle in the pit for 3 weeks, and instead of having to do like a just one night. I have a very like personal setup, with my iPads and Bluetooth pedals and tuners and things like that. So basically, every time I go do a show, I mean, it takes me at least half an hour to set up, because like I have like all these little things, that allow me to play the show comfortably.
Didn't
So
have any of that stuff back in the 80s.
yeah, right. So it's nice to, being able to, just like being able to leave your stuff there at the end of the show and know that you're going to do 25 shows like that without having to touch anything. So I love it. Yeah.
Tom Barney, I just communicated with him the other day, as a matter of fact. I haven't
Oh,
seen.
great. Yeah, I owe him everything. I mean, he's the one who basically got me started on the whole Broadway thing. I don't know if it was so serendipitous. I was basically out on Long Island getting a bass fixed, and then when I got on the train, I noticed this gentleman. We didn't know each other in person, but I was like, I think I've seen him on a Steely Dan, video. And so, we started talking. It was super nice. I mean, he's a legend. He's played with everybody, as you know, Miles, Bette Midler. I mean, you name it. And he said, yeah, I mean, I'm the chair at the Lion King. I've had the gig for 20 years. You're welcome to come hang, like sit in the pit and watch the show. So basically, that's how the whole thing got started. I mean, without that serendipitous meeting on that Long Island Railroad train, for all I know, I would have never started on Broadway. But he was the one who, got me into it, and then like everything snowballed and from there. Yeah,
Shout out to Tom.
yeah, forever grateful.
So, what would you be if you were not a bass player, if you can imagine something outside of music?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, I remember when I think you might have asked me that question, but like 4 or 5 years ago when we met. I think I might have mentioned something like a photographer, but now that I think about it, I mean, the answer I'm kind of at a loss for an answer, because I've been breathing and living music all my life, and I almost got a degree in chemistry, in organic chemistry. Not many people know that, but I never really loved it. And so basically, when the time came to make a decision about my future, music just basically came automatically. In Italy, I was basically a student at the university, both for organic chemistry and for classical double bass, and then music just took over.
How many people were in both classes? How many classmates did you have that were in the one major and also the other major?
No, no, I was definitely the only one. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because people tend to make very definite decisions. But for me, it was like at first I thought that music was going to be a hobby, but then it just like won over. I mean, I didn't really have to think about it. And the funny thing was that I was a student in Italy and I got a scholarship to Berkeley, and I was like, yeah, I'll check it out for one semester. I was like, I'm going there in January, then I'll be back in Italy by May and finish my degrees, chemistry and classical bass. And that was 26 years ago. And I'm still here. I became an American citizen, and how life is really interesting sometimes, right? What was supposed to be a trial, one semester kind of thing, that ended up basically turning my life upside down. And I'm
That's
not
funny.
complaining.
I interviewed Phil Chen a few times.
Yeah, yeah, great bass player. Yeah.
Jamaica. He
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
I was going to go to Italy for like, what did he say, 3 months or something like that. Ended up staying for like 16 years and
yeah, 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 yeah.
back, Rod Stewart, all that. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, your life can change on just like that. I mean, like even in the most unexpected thing. I mean, if I hadn't run into Tom Barney by chance on that train, like for all I know, my career might be in a totally different place now.
Yeah.
So, how interesting, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just something to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad things turned out the way they did for you and for all the people that get to enjoy your music.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I guess I look forward to seeing you again, probably at the NAM show. Uh, yeah, we ran into each other this past January at the booth of Benevolent Bases. The
Oh, downstairs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you checked out the actually the version of that bass that I showed you, the one with the kill switch. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that we'll maybe touch base, like a few days before, and we'll make it at least we'll be able to get a good espresso, and catch up.
Yeah, well, my wife mentioned New York to me the other day. We like going to New York. We haven't been there in a while.
Oh,
So,
cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely let me know if you guys make it here. Absolutely.
well, all right, Marco, so great catching up with you. I really enjoy talking with you, and I look forward to a follow-up interview when you have the big time far out news to share. As I
Well, thank you for wishing me well, and thanks again for inviting me for a follow-up. And yeah, let's see where life takes us, right? We're on the same boat.
okay, and thanks so much, my friend. You take care.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, I told you we were gonna geek out on some real niche bass stuff, but hey, that's what For Bass Players Only is all about, or it's a big part of it anyway. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, men and women of all ages, and you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. Come join them. Experience that incredible transformation for yourself. You're never too old to groove. I'll see you right back here next week, same time, same place, with another bass player interview here at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.